It was one of those blistering Phoenix afternoons where the heat doesn't just sit on your skin, it presses down like a weight, making every movement feel slow and deliberate. The kind of day where the asphalt shimmers and the air smells like hot concrete and creosote. My car, a beat-up Honda Civic that had seen better days, was covered in a fine layer of dust and grime from the last hubbub that had blown through. It looked sad, tired, just like I felt. I'd been putting off washing it for weeks, but my girlfriend Vanessa had finally had enough. "It's embarrassing, Mark," she'd said that morning, her voice still husky from sleep. She was stretched out on my sheets, the thin cotton blanket tangled around her waist, the morning light cut through the blinds, striping her bare back. I remember staring at the curve of her hip, the way her spine dipped into the small of her back, and feeling that familiar low pull of want. "I'm not getting into that thing until it's clean. It looks like you drove it through a mud pit and then forgot about it." So, that's how we ended up at the Supersudes Express on 7th Street in Missouri. It was a place I'd driven past 100 times but never actually used. A standalone automated wash, one of those drive-through tunnels with the big flappy brushes and neon signs promising a supreme shine. The building was a long, low-slung structure of faded blue corrugated metal, with a row of vacuum bays off to the side. A flickering LED sign out front scrolled through prices. Basic wash, $8, deluxe, $12, supreme, $15. The place was mostly empty, which wasn't a surprise given the 112-degree heat. Who in their right mind was out washing their car in this? Vanessa fanned her face with her hand as we pulled into the lot. "God, it's an oven. Roll your window up, the AC is barely working as it is." She was wearing a thin white tank top and denim shorts so short the pockets peeked out from the bottom. I watched her shift in her seat, the fabric of her top straining slightly across her chest. A faint sheen of sweat glistened in the hollow of her throat. Even annoyed and sweating, she was breathtaking. Sometimes I'd catch myself just watching her, studying the perfect line of her jaw, the full, almost pouty shape of her lips, and feel a weird mix of awe and a possessiveness that bordered on ugly. She was so far out of my league it was almost funny. I pulled up to the payment kiosk, a yellowed plastic console with a cracked screen. The machine beeped sluggishly as I inserted my credit card. "Let's just get the Supreme," I said. "Might as well." "Just hurry," Vanessa murmured, leaning her head back against the seat. She closed her eyes, her long dark lashes brushing her cheeks. I couldn't stop my eyes from drifting down, tracing the shape of her legs. Her calves were taut. Her feet, nestled in simple leather sandals, looked delicate. The strap of one sandal was biting into the skin of her ankle, leaving a faint red mark. I had a sudden, vivid image of pressing my thumb against that mark, of kissing my way up the inside of her calf. The thought was so intense, so out of place in the grimy reality of the car wash bay, that it made my face feel hot. The machine finally churned out a ticket. A green light flashed above the tunnel entrance, and a robotic female voice, distorted by static, said, "Please proceed. Keep your vehicle in neutral. Do not brake." I eased the car forward into the dark mouth of the tunnel. The outside world vanished, replaced by a deep, rumbling silence. Then, with a hiss of pressurized air, the wash began. Thick, soapy foam erupted from nozzles on all sides, instantly smothering the windshield in a dense, blue-tinged suds. The world went white and blurry. "Creepy in here," Vanessa said, her voice quiet. She'd opened her eyes and was staring out her window into the swirling foam. "It's just a car wash," I said, but my own voice sounded thin. The rumble of the machinery felt like it was vibrating up through the chassis and into my bones. Giant, tentacle-like cloth strips began slapping against the car, whipping over the roof and hood with a wet, heavy thwumping sound. The car rocked slightly with each pass. We were about halfway through, the rinse cycle starting to clear the soap away, when I saw him. Just a glimpse through the passenger side window as the suds momentarily cleared. A man, standing in one of the bay areas inside the tunnel. It was a service area, I guessed, a narrow wet corridor between the spinning brushes and the wall, meant for employees. But he wasn't dressed like an employee. He wore dark, wet-looking jeans and a plain gray t-shirt that clung to his torso. He was just standing there, perfectly still, watching our car roll past. His face was what got me. It was utterly blank. Not neutral, not bored. Blank, like a wiped slate. His hair was dark and plastered to his forehead with water or sweat, and his eyes, they didn't track the car. They were fixed on me or on Vanessa. I couldn't tell. Did you see that? I asked, my neck prickling. See what? Vanessa asked, not looking away from her own window. The triple foam rinse? Yeah, Mark, it's spectacular. No, there was a guy standing in there. She finally turned, but the brushes swooped down again, obscuring the view. Where? Probably just an employee. He wasn't wearing a uniform. So he's a manager. Or he got his clothes dirty? Who cares? She sounded irritated, and I felt a flash of frustration. Why didn't she see it? Why didn't she feel how wrong it was? A man standing motionless in the pouring, thundering interior of an automated car wash. It wasn't right. The final rinse began, and then the blowdryers kicked in with a deafening jet engine roar. The car shuddered as we were pushed out the other end into the blinding Arizona sun. I craned my neck, trying to look back into the tunnel's dark entrance, but I couldn't see anything. The world was suddenly bright and loud again. I pulled forward into one of the vacuum bays to finish up the interior. The silence after the tunnel's roar felt heavy, expectant. You're being weird, Vanessa said, unbuckling her seatbelt. It was just some guy. I know, I said, but I didn't. My heart was still beating a little too fast. I got out and started wrestling with the stiff, coiling vacuum hose. The heat was a physical blow. Vanessa got out too, stretching her arms over her head. The hem of her tank top rode up, exposing a strip of tanned, smooth stomach. I stared, the image of the man's blank face momentarily overlaying the sight of her skin. The two feelings, desire and dread, clashed violently in my gut, making me feel nauseous. I focused on vacuuming the floor mats, the roar of the machine filling my head. When I straightened up, wiping sweat from my forehead, I saw him again. He was across the lot, leaning against a rusted-out dumpster enclosure, just watching us. Same clothes, dark and damp. Same utterly expressionless face. He wasn't doing anything, just leaning and staring. Vanessa, I said, my voice tight. What? She was wiping down the dashboard with a rag, her back to me. Don't turn around quickly, but that guy, from inside. He's over by the dumpster, watching us. She froze. I saw the muscles in her bare shoulders tense. Slowly, deliberately, she turned her head as if she was just taking in the view of the street. Her eyes scanned past the dumpster and then back to me. A tiny frown creased her forehead. I see him, she said quietly. That is odd. Odd? It's fucking creepy is what it is. Maybe he's waiting for someone, she offered, but her voice lacked conviction. She turned fully now, pretending to lean against the car and look at her phone. I could see her thumb hovering over the screen, not dialing, just held ready. Her knuckles were white. The sight of her fear, so rarely displayed, sent a fresh jolt of adrenaline through me. I felt a primal urge to step between her and that distant figure, to shield her. The urge was undercut by a colder, quieter voice in my head that wondered what his staring meant. Was he looking at me? Or was he looking at the way her shorts hugged her hips, at the length of her legs? I finished the vacuuming as fast as I could, my movements jerky. Get in the car, I said. What? Just get in, now. She didn't argue this time. She slid into the passenger seat and locked her door. I heard the definitive thunk. I yanked the hose away, tossed it back onto its rack, and got in, fumbling with the keys. My hands were shaking. I started the car and threw it into reverse, my eyes glued to the rearview mirror. The man hadn't moved. He was still leaning against the dumpster, his head tilted slightly. As I backed out, his arm came up. Not a wave. It was a slow, deliberate motion, his fingers extending, then curling back into a loose fist, except for his index finger, which he pointed at me. Then, with agonizing slowness, he dragged the tip of that finger down his own cheek, from just below his eye to his jawline. A mimicry of tracing a tear. Or cutting. Then he smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was a stretch of lips over teeth, empty of any warmth or humor. A cold, surgical gesture. Oh God, Vanessa whispered that she'd seen it too. Mark, go, just go. I slammed my foot on the gas, peeling out of the lot and onto 70th Street. I drove fast, erratically, checking the mirror every 2 seconds. Did you see that? What the hell was that? I was almost shouting. I saw it, she said, her voice small. She had her arms wrapped around herself. Just drive, please, just get us home. We didn't talk much on the way back to my apartment. The air between us was thick with a fear we couldn't articulate. Every pedestrian on the sidewalk, every person in another car, felt like a potential threat. My mind kept replaying that slow, deliberate finger drag down the cheek, the empty smile. When we got inside, the familiar comfort of my apartment felt like a lie. The walls seemed thin. Vanessa went straight to the kitchen and poured herself a glass of water. I watched the line of her throat as she drank. My fear was still there, a live wire in my chest, but now it was tangled up with a raw, inappropriate hunger. The danger outside had somehow amplified everything inside me. I wanted to push her against the counter, to feel her heart hammering against mine, to prove we were both still alive and solid. The thought shamed me even as it electrified me. She put the glass down and turned to me. Who was that guy? I have no idea. He was so still. Did he seem real to you? What do you mean? I don't know. She hugged herself again, a vulnerable gesture that made her look younger. His face didn't look like he was blinking. It was like a mask. We tried to rationalize it. A prank. A mentally ill person. A really weird employee. But none of it fit. The location, the timing, the specific, performative nature of that final gesture. It felt targeted. The next few days were tense. I was jumpy. Every time my phone buzzed with an unknown number, my stomach clenched. I started seeing glimpses of gray t-shirts in crowds that would turn out to be someone else. I was working from home, and I found myself getting up to look out the window constantly. Vanessa stayed over most nights, which was both a comfort and a source of new anxiety. Her presence was a reassurance, but my protectiveness was morphing into something more obsessive. I'd watch her sleep, tracing the shape of her under the sheets with my eyes, and my mind would flicker between desire and a terrifying image of that blank-faced man standing in the bedroom doorway, watching her too. 4 days after the car wash, I was taking the trash out to the dumpster behind my apartment complex. The Phoenix night was still hot, the air smelling of orange blossoms and exhaust. As I lifted the heavy lid, the beam from the weak security light above me fell on something sitting right on top of the packed bags of garbage. It was a small, cheap plastic picture frame. And inside the frame was a photograph. Vanessa. It was a candid shot, taken through a window. My living room window. She was sitting on my couch, wearing the same white tank top and shorts from the day of the car wash. She was laughing, her head thrown back, one hand resting on her stomach. The photo was slightly blurred, as if taken from a distance or in low light. But it was unmistakably her, and it was taken from outside my apartment, likely the same night we came back from the car wash. My blood went cold. I stumbled back, dropping the trash bag. My heart was a frantic drum against my ribs. I snatched the picture frame and ran back inside, my hands trembling so badly I could barely get the key in the lock. Vanessa was in the shower. I could hear the water running. I stood in the middle of the living room, holding the filthy frame, staring at the photo. The intimacy of it was violated, her laugh, captured without her knowledge, the casual, comfortable pose that he'd been outside, watching her, watching us. The bathroom door opened and Vanessa stepped out, wrapped in a towel. Her skin was flushed pink from the heat, her dark hair dripping onto her shoulders. Water droplets clung to her collarbones. She saw my face first, then her eyes dropped to the photo in my hands. "What's that?" she asked, smiling slightly. "Did you dig up some old?" Then she saw it, really saw it. Her smile vanished, the color drained from her face. "Where did you get that?" Her voice was a whisper. The dumpster. Outside. It was just sitting on top. She took a step closer, her hand going to her mouth. The towel slipped a little, and I had a horrifyingly clear view of the curve of her breast. The water still beaded on her skin, the juxtaposition was unbearable. Her vulnerable, beautiful body, and the vile violation of that photograph. My desire curdled into a sickening rage. "He was here," she breathed. "Oh my God, Mark, he was right outside." I called the police. They came, a bored-looking officer and a younger, more alert one. They took the picture frame in an evidence bag, asked a lot of questions and took a report. They were polite, but their demeanor was clear. This was creepy, but it wasn't a crime. No explicit threats had been made. No one had tried to break in. It was a photo in a dumpster. They told me to be vigilant, to call if I saw anything else, and left. Their departure made the apartment feel even more exposed. The walls felt like paper. That night, I barely slept. Every creak of the building, every car that passed on the street outside felt like a sign. Vanessa clung to me in bed, her body tense. I held her, my arm around her waist, my hand resting on the warm, smooth skin of her stomach. I was achingly, painfully aware of her body next to mine, every breath she took, every shift of her hips. The fear had stripped away everything else, leaving only this raw, animal awareness. I wanted to lose myself in her, to fuck the memory of that blank face out of both our minds. But the idea of it felt wrong, tainted. The act itself felt like it would be watched. The next morning my phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. No words. Just a single image. It was another photo. Of me. I was at the kitchen sink, filling a glass of water. I was shirtless, wearing just my boxers. The angle was low from outside. Looking up through the window over the sink, you could see the tired slump of my shoulders, the stubble on my jaw. You could see the reflection of the TV in the dark window behind me, a blur of blue light. He'd been back. Last night. While we were lying in bed, paralyzed with fear, he'd been outside my kitchen window taking my picture. I showed Vanessa. She didn't scream, she just went very, very still. Then she walked into the bedroom and started packing her bag. "What are you doing?" I asked, panic rising in my throat. "I can't stay here, Mark." Her voice was flat, drained of all emotion. "This isn't just creepy anymore. This is... I don't know what this is, but I'm not safe here. You're not safe here. Don't go. Please. We can figure this out. We can get better locks, cameras." She shook her head, not looking at me. She was folding her clothes with a frantic, precise energy. "He's not trying to break in. He's not threatening us. He's just showing us that he can be anywhere. That he can see us. I can't live like that. I can't sleep wondering if every shadow is him taking another picture." The raw, sexual tension of the past few days was gone, replaced by a cold, practical terror. She was leaving. The thought was a physical pain. It felt like a failure. I was supposed to protect her, and instead, my world was poisoning hers.